Hey everybody, it's Marla Kay. Hope you all are doing well. I wanted to come to you today because I want to do a little brief presentation about the need to do something about our public school issues. I know a lot of parents are concerned about sending their kids to school, especially after how COVID was handled in the school systems, different states doing different things, the rise of racism, parents concerned about school to prison pipelines, black teachers not being able to be hired to teach our children, and those are all valid concerns. And I know a lot of people have already pulled their kids out of school, which is great, and they are homeschooling, but a lot of times that homeschool setting is isolated, and parents don't have all the connections or social connections and supports that they or their children need. And having been a stay-at-home mom for a little while, I do know that it's very important to have connections with the outside world, have your kids connected so they can play and socialize with other kids. And also, kids just need a safe place to learn, that they don't have to worry about being judged, where they're not learning things that are not really necessary or relative to their growth and development. Just have a lot of different challenges right now, and people are very dissatisfied with the quality of education that the public school system is giving, and so parents are looking for alternatives. So I'm going to do a two-part series because one of the issues that a lot of black parents run into is our resources. First, it's just information, how you start, how do you go about it, what types of options are there, even if there isn't anything in your community, but if there is something in your community, like what do you do? And so that sometimes is, those are questions. And the other piece is money. You can't do anything with money. And a lot of parents who may not be well educated, but want better for their kids, may not have the resources to, or can afford to sacrifice and take off of work or quit their jobs to stay at home to take care of kids, or they may not have a type of job where they're able to homeschool their kid. They just haven't transitioned yet. I'm sorry for using the word kid. I just country, so I say kid, but I don't mean any harm by saying kid. I'm referring to children. So sometimes the children don't necessarily have a parent who has the capacity, either intellectually or financially, to do the homeschool. And then some people want to start little small schools in their community. And I've been talking about, just personally, churches are the best alternatives for black people right now to start schools or recreational centers or community centers or anything, because they're there, they're tax exempt, they're not being used, and they need to have life in them. And a lot of churches have gotten away from doing anything for the community. Their focus is inward with just the congregation. And as our income shrink, a lot of people have removed themselves from the faith community altogether because they just haven't found any use for it. It's like you give and you pour into this vessel, but you don't ever get anything out of it in return. And people are really feeling the pain right now, and they're looking for alternatives. And then there's a lot of people that I've connected with over the last couple of weeks who are looking for solutions on how to make the connections. So I'm gonna show you first. Today I'm gonna just focus on money, because I want Black people to understand we can't afford, because we don't have any wealth, we don't have any money, we can't really afford to leave any money on the table, which includes, grant money, public funds. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want any grants, I want to do it myself. Well, most churches or organizations that try to go it themselves don't end up not really being able to sustain themselves for long, because we don't have any money, and most of us are paycheck living from paycheck to paycheck before we don't have any money. So, we rely on public school to educate our kids, and that's primarily because we didn't have money, we don't have generational wealth, we can't send our kids to private schools, we just don't have the wealth. And so public schools are funded by our tax dollars. And so anytime we say we don't want to use grant money, guess what happens? Other groups get to use our money. So that's problematic, because a lot of groups have used that money over a long period of time. They created the vehicles, the schools, the public-private partnerships, and they've learned how to exploit the system, and they use their money to develop their community, and they use public dollars and private grant funds to fund their educational endeavors. And they go to school separately from us, and they have millions and sometimes billions of dollars. So today I want to just show you some examples of that, and I'm just primarily, because we're dealing with working with faith-based organizations, I'm going to focus on the Jewish community, because they have the most clout, especially here in Florida, but also in New York, Pennsylvania, and other states where there are large Jewish populations. But Judaism is a religion, and so we talk about Jewish people in a way as if it's some racial group, but it's really a religious group, and they have figured out a way to be protected and set up organizations to educate their children separately from the public school setting, and they get millions of dollars to do it. So I just want to show you that it can be done, but we have to do the work and organize in a way that allows us to take advantage of the same resources, but it also requires having talented people that can do the work, lay the foundation. It requires faith-based organizations actually wanting to sign on to participate and do it the right way with no motives. The motive should be the community and improving the community, and not about getting people to come to church or paying tithes or growing membership. So, we're going to talk about the money piece first, and then we're going to do another session and talk about the types of educational entities we could possibly create, so that I can help parents figure this out wherever they are. And then we're going to talk about money, because money is key. I don't care, even if you're homeschooling your child, you still got to pay bills. So some money is coming into the house some kind of way in order for you to be able to have a roof over your child's head, internet, a computer, all the things that the child needs in order to learn. So money is essential. We cannot have a conversation about education without talking about money. And while we don't necessarily have to have $7,000-$8,000 per child per year to educate our children, we do need to have resources to be able to pay good educators, to pay good administrators. We need to be able to assist the faith-based organizations in covering their overhead costs. We need to be able to have money to purchase things like buses, curriculum. We need to be able to have money to have people to come in and help develop Afro-centered curriculum for our children. So there are a lot of things that need to happen, but it's all going to take money, because nobody, while we can volunteer and do some things out of the kindness of our heart, it just takes money to do everything, and that's something that Black people are really going to have to grapple with. We love free stuff, and we think, people are just supposed to give stuff to us and things are supposed to be available, but other groups have organized in a way where they're able to have money and take advantage of things that we don't take advantage of, because we have a really flawed way of looking at the system. And we need to understand that this system, it wasn't designed for us, so we have to kind of force our way into it. And as we do that, we also have to take advantage of things that other groups take advantage of. There's no reason that we can't access grant funds and public money to do what we need to do. If every other group is doing it and they're advancing past us and they're wealthier than us, then maybe we need to look at what they're doing and we need to do the same thing. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to talk about some of the Jewish schools that get billions and millions of dollars in different states. So I'm going to show you the articles and read some of the information. Let's see. Okay, I think you should be able to, okay, so my screen is shared now. Okay, so this first article that I'm going to read for you is from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, and this article is dated in 2013. It says, advocacy effort has Jewish schools reaping hundreds of millions in government money. See all the little happy Jewish children? And this is in New York. So it says, each year, Halper is faced with the state tax bill for his accounting business in Providence, Rhode Island. He has a choice. He can write a check for the amount owed by his company, or as a part of the state tax credit program, he can send a check to a foundation that provides tuition scholarships to students at Providence's 2 Jewish day schools. His tax bill would be credited for 90% of the contribution. For the last 5 years, his firm has opted for the latter. And it says, we are in favor of supporting these schools. We feel Jewish education is the future of the Jewish people. So you see here where this accounting firm decided, and I'm sure that the owner is probably Jewish, but they probably, just send their kids to Jewish schools, or maybe they have friends that have children in that are receiving Jewish education. And so what they do is they use the system to donate to the school system instead of paying taxes. That's an option. It's a credit program that the state government created, and they take advantage of it. So I don't see anything wrong with that. And if they can do it, we can do it too. So I'm going to go down here. So in Rhode Island, the tuition scholarship tax credit, which is available to families with incomes of less than 250% of the federal poverty level, is capped at $1 million statewide and open only to corporate donors. The credit is calculated at 75% for a single year and 90% if they donated for up to a maximum of $100,000 annually. The statewide cap is usually reached annually on July 1st, the first day applications may be submitted. In Florida, a similar program last year was capped at $229 million. In New York, a lobbying effort 2 years ago resulted in legislation extending an exemption from a transportation payroll tax of 0.34% to private and religious schools, a seemingly small change, but one that saved an estimated $8 million per year. So you see these Jewish organizations and Jewish people and Jewish schools have learned how to work the tax system in order to get money for their schools. And they have day schools all over the country. I live right down the street from a Jewish Federation, and they have a private school on their campus. And they get money for their schools to help pay teachers, to help pay overhead, to do whatever it is that they need to do. So this is just one story, and I'll also, put the link to these stories in the description so that you can read them and get a better understanding. But I want you to understand that we are leaving money on the table. We're not taking advantage of monies that our tax dollars are used for. We basically leave the money on the table, and other organizations, use the money. So here in another story that I found is Forward, and it talks about how the Jewish federations basically, I hate to use the word launder money. It's not the appropriate word. But they found loopholes to get government funds that pay for different aspects of their services. And so, let's see if I can get it to share. It's frozen right now. Okay, here we go. All right. So the title of this article is 26 billion bucks, billion with a B. The Jewish charity industry uncovered. The American Jewish Community's network of charity organizations is a font of Jewish power, a source of communal pride, and a huge mystery. And so what this article did was it broke down how the Jewish organizations have, really been going after different types of monies. So as you can see, the Jewish Communities Federation's schools, healthcare, and social service organizations, Israel aid groups, cultural and communal organizations, and advocacy groups report net assets of $26 billion. That's more than Las Vegas Sands Corp, which owns casinos all over the world. It's about the same as CBS Corp, which owns 29 TV stations, 126 radio stations, and CBS television network, and Simon & Schuster. The Jewish Communal Network of tax-exempt organization employs as many people as the Ford Motor Company. Now think about that. That's a lot of people, and it is a lot of money. And it's money that we are, again, also helping to contribute to, because a lot of this money comes from grants. Let me see. All told, the whole Daisy reports $14.6 billion in revenue in a year, given the likelihood that a large portion of the $2 billion that these groups report giving out in grants to organizations goes to Jewish tax-exempt groups and is thereby counted twice. The actual revenue is probably between $12 billion and $14 billion. The Daisy structure has existed for well over a century in the United States. The Boston Jewish community founded the first federation in the country in 1895. Similar groups soon followed in other cities. In 1902, the American Jewish Yearbook counted thousands of Jewish organizations across the United States, including schools, clubs, and fraternal lodges. So Jewish people have created this system, and it's called the Daisy structure, which they basically raise money as a nonprofit, and then they give it to other organizations, which are nonprofits, and it benefits only Jewish people. So, they get money, and they give money to each other. Um, so, money in New York. Let's look at this one. The financial center of the Jewish communal network is located firmly and disproportionately in New York. New York State is home to just a quarter of America's Jewish population, but 7.2 billion of the 14.6 billion in annual revenues reported by the network goes to organizations based there. The second largest by revenue is California, with just 1.2 billion a year, while Massachusetts comes in third with 930 million. The network is totally absent from Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and North Dakota. Groups located in Chicago have assets of 1.6 billion, more than any city but New York. San Francisco comes in third with 1.1 billion, followed by Walton, Massachusetts, where the Brandeis University is located. So, and here it says Yeshiva University spends the most in a year of any Jewish group, followed by the Conference Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, which distributes funds from the German government to Jewish individuals and charities. Other top spenders includes the university, the New York-based American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, and Beth Abram Health Services, a Bronx-based healthcare organization that is a network of the UGA Federation of New York. So they have all sorts of networks and ways that they pipeline money, but they also, as you can see, they have all sorts of different types of activities that they do just for their community. They have education, they have religious, they have culture and community, they have general advocacy, and they have healthcare and social service. And you see the large portion of money that goes to Israel. Well, that money that they get from grants and other public funds that we as Black Americans help contribute to, that goes to them so they can take care of their organizations. We don't have that. So at what point, do we get on board and be like, hey, we can do this too? Other organizations are already doing it. They've been doing it. And so when we look and say, hey, they have, don't think that they're just funding all that on their own. They're not. We're helping to fund that as well. So I'm going to go to another story, which I found, and it was very important, and it's about child care. It's from the Child Care Compliance Community organization. And here it says, millions in grant money helps elevate Jewish preschool education. Well, that's what we need. We have a lot of young parents with young children who are looking for ways to provide, quality education in a setting with Black teachers, in Black facilities where parents can just feel safe with qualified, quality educators. It's safe, it's clean, people care about your kids, and it's embracing our culture. You're able to have cultural discussions and have music and do things that are culturally appropriate for us in our local communities. We don't have that. We haven't had that because we've invested in integration in public education. And so now people are starting to look elsewhere, and we don't have what we need. So, this organization basically got money for preschool education. So here it says, how much money does it take to change the landscape of early childhood Jewish education in the Bay Area? A $3.3 million long-term investment by the San Francisco-based Jim Joseph Foundation in partnership with the San Francisco-based Jewish Community Federation might be doing the trick. So this organization got a private grant in concert with the Jewish Federation, which already hoards up all of the money, but they do all the finding the money for the smaller federations, and then they funnel it out. So now in the 7th year, the grants are funding myriad programs, including Jewish resource specialists, development training for selected JCC and synagogue early childhood educators, independent mentoring, coaching, retreats, and seminar on Israel. So, let's see if it'll let me click on the full article. Okay. And this is Jewish News of Northern California. Okay. No, I don't want to see nothing. Thank you. Is it working? Organizers say yes. To wit, an independent evaluation of the JRS program revealed several positive findings, such as a greater parent-family participation in Jewish community life, the integration of Jewish content into secular families, and new opportunities for teachers to explore Jewish early childhood education as a career path. We see success after success of teachers infusing deeper learning for children and teachers and parents. It's a triple whammy, they basically say. So the pilot launched in 2011 with 3-year cohorts at 5 Bay Area sites. The second cohort at 10 sites followed in 2014. And so it says to chip away. I'm sorry, let me go back. It says even though some schools had an excellent approach to the secular curriculum, the Jewish curriculum was not following suit. Pointed out Janet Harriet, Director of Federation's Early Childhood and Family Engagement Initiative. A decade ago, Jewish educators knew about the Jewish curriculum. Jewish people have their own curriculum, honey. Black people can have their own curriculum too. I'm trying to get y'all up to speed about what everybody else is doing. So I want you to get it in your spirits. This is what we need to do. But in recent years, we were finding fewer educators who are Jewish and going into early childhood education. To chip away at the problem, the Jewish Resource Specialist program shifts away from a traditional teacher-centered classroom approach to an approach that involves collaboration among children, teachers, and parents. Well, that's what we want, right? So how come we can't have that? So I want, you all to understand that it can be done. We can do this, but we just kind of have to really get our stuff together and do it in a way that's collaborative. And we also have to have faith-based organizations on board, and I'm not sure if a lot of faith-based organizations are ready. So I want to show you this because I want to let you know that money is available. There's a way to do it. We don't have to be struggling all the time, but we do have to have come to some type of an agreement that we can't just say I don't want any grants, we're going to walk away. Because when we do that, we are basically giving away money to other groups for them to do what we say we want to do, which is, in my opinion, foolish. So as long as we live in America, as long as we have to participate in this system, and we do, unless we're going to be mountain people and just not do nothing but live off the land, and that's not, reasonable, feasible, or attainable at this point. We have to do what we can do, and I think, investing in our future and looking at how we can educate our children so that we can give them the foundation that we need to be able to not only compete, but also be healthy, whole people, because when you, Jewish people experience discrimination. We're all dealing with white supremacy, so we're all looking for a way to escape that. And so, Jewish schools provide Jewish children a way for their parents to send them to school and learn in an environment that's safe and they're learning the things that are important to their culture and their religion, we need to do the same thing. Okay, so here, this is from the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle. Yeshiva schools, which are Jewish schools, receives $4.5 million in funding headed for campus renovations. Grants provided by Charles Morris Trust and Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. So there's a redevelopment assistance program that actually gives them money to address their school issues. So the Charles Morris Trust awarded $2.5 million to the organization's $9.9 million capital campaign in November. So this Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh, which I'm assuming is like an umbrella organization that represents all the yeshivas in the area, they created a capital campaign. And so what they did was they raised money by fundraising, and they also approached private foundations to invest in their schools. Now, I don't know about these particular foundations because they may only give to Jewish organizations, but there are plenty of private foundations who support all types of programs and institutions and initiatives. So we would have to, find what fits us, but I just want to plant the seed that it can be done. So here it says the Charles Morris Trust awarded $2.5 million to the organization's $9 million capital campaign. A second $2 million grant was awarded on December 6th by the Pennsylvania's Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. That is a state redevelopment assistance program, and the Jewish school got it. So again, every state is different, but if you organize your programs and institutions and organizations in a way that they're able to be funded, we could do the same thing. So I just want you to understand that, with this Pennsylvania Redevelopment Assistance Program, while it's a state program, I'm sure some of the money came from, Health and Human Services or USDA or some other organization, which is public tax dollars. If it came from the federal government, we have federal taxes withheld from our paychecks and our taxes each year, and we use that money to develop our communities. And when we don't pursue those opportunities, somebody else does. And so this is simply another example of how we leave money on the table when we say we don't want any help from the government. Well, other people are happy you don't want any help from the government, because when you don't want that money, they take it. So, we have to change our attitude about what we view as good for our community. In the last article that I want to show you is from ABC. It is from 2019. So this one says, Jewish schools seek piece of public grants for security. Students and staff members at Jewish day schools near Pittsburgh Synagogue, that was the site of October's mass shooting, asking state lawmakers for help paying for security measures. So Jewish schools ask the state to assist them securing their schools. So here it says, amid a rise of violent attacks against the Jewish community, students and staff members at Jewish day schools in the same neighborhood at the Pittsburgh Synagogue, that was the site of October's mass shooting, are asking state lawmakers for help paying for security measures. They went to the Pennsylvania's Capitol on Tuesday, along with the delegations from Jewish schools in other cities around the state, to meet with lawmakers about including non-public schools in a 60-year-old, $60 million school security grant program. So here they are advocating for themselves, They are going to state legislatures and asking for money. And here it says, it is a conversation that is growing in a number of states. In New Jersey doubled money for such grants in January, and California's governor is upping his spending request to $15 million from $500,000. So can you imagine? You only got $500,000 for your collective groups, school security, and then you approach the state, and then they increase it to $15 million. So lobbying for yourselves in your respective states is really important, and this is more important to me than voting. This didn't take a vote. It just actually took a group of people getting together, going to the state legislature and be like, hey, we got a problem. Here's the evidence. Do something. And, people did it. So here it says, like some other states, Pennsylvania began a $10 million school safety program after the 2012 mass shooting at an elementary school in Newton, Connecticut, and then created a new $60 million school and community security grant program after last year's mass shooting at a high school in Parkland, Florida, but private schools did not have access to the grants. Heightened security has been in place at many Jewish schools in recent years, but parents and staff at Jewish day schools say they are more alarmed now in the wake of the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh and the shooting at Poway Shabbat Synagogue near San Diego on the last day of the Jewish holiday of Passover. So as you see, these are private schools, but they are getting ready to get public money for security because they are targeted. So we are the only group who are constantly targeted, and we have nothing. So, what we have to do is really figure out a way to come up with a set of values, ideas, and talking points and stick with them. And we have to come up with a common goal. If you're talking about education and K through 12 education, that we have to have a common goal. We have to use the same platform. We need to have something kind of like the Jewish community does, and they use the same structures and talking points all over the country to get what they need to get done. They do it silently. You don't see them protesting in the street. They're not on TV. They're not on social media. They just do it, and it gets done, and they have the money, and you don't know about it because you don't read, you don't find stuff. So, I just want to show you because I'm like a money person, and I also work with public policy, and I also know where all of the money is. But I wanted to talk to you to just give you examples of what can be done, show you what other groups are doing, and then plant the seed that, we can't say we don't want anything from the government. We want everything from the government because they owe us. We want everything because they haven't taken care of us. We want to do things our way because we've tried it their way and it doesn't work. And those are legitimate gripes that we are entitled to have, and other groups have them. They don't have any issues. So, the Jewish community is much smaller than the African American community, and if they can rake in billions of dollars and organize and do things for their young people and for their communities and to help their parents, then so can we. But it takes work, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to take some meeting, and we're going to clash, and we're not going to agree on everything, but we can do this if we want to educate our children, if we want to have safe settings with curriculum and educators that cater specifically to the needs of our children. It can be done, but we have to get together and figure out how to do it. So, I don't really have anything else I want to talk about today. I just want to plant that seed, and I'm going to do my second part of this video on what we can do, the different structures for education, and how do you go about setting those things up. And then we'll have another session on organizing and finding money and working with faith-based organizations, because faith-based organizations are going to have to come to the table, and we're going to have a long conversation, because a lot of churches just don't have anything going in them, and I don't know how they think they're going to sustain themselves just being a church. You just can't, and we need to have schools inside of our church, our churches in our communities, because they are the things that are so closely tied to community more than anything else except for a school. So let's meditate on this. Again, I will put the links in the description to help you, so you can read these articles and kind of get an understanding of how this works. But don't think of it as religion. Don't think of it as, I don't want anything from the government. Think of it as, we're doing the best thing we can for our children. We live in America. We live in a system that requires certain skills and certain education in order for us to be able to function in this society. And I don't care whether your child is going to get a skill or whether your child is going into tech, education, or do something else. That's a conversation for another day. But the education piece has to happen, and we need to figure out how to transition out of public education as quickly as possible with all the things that are going on. And with these new laws coming out where religious organizations may be able to benefit from public funds, while it's going to benefit white supremacy in the dominant society, it will also benefit us as well. So let us, meditate on options during this time, because we don't really have much time, but we have to do something. And a lot of parents are getting worried, and I'm worried myself because I have grandkids. But I just want to talk to you today about education and making the connection where we need money. Money is important. We cannot talk about education and educating our children without money. And so I want you to understand that there is money available, but you have to do some work in order to position yourself to get it. So I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like this video, share this video with people in the faith-based community, and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be doing this, providing solutions all year long, so that we can try to get out of this rut and save ourselves, because nobody else is going to save us. All right, good people. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.